right. All right, folks. So this is the release product and UX weekly meeting for 19th of May, 2021. Um, I think the easiest way is for me to share my screen and then we go through the agenda and whatever links we have to take a look at. So I'm going to start sharing my desktop. Let me know if you have any problems visualizing it. All right. So before we talk about roadmap and breakdowns for the next milestones, I wanted to give a quick update on this issue, the manual allow the Denoy action on the pipeline. We just finished the solution validation, but about a week ago, Shinya made a comment that was overlooked. And essentially, there is an issue with the way the workflow was built, both in the sense that it's not the merge requests and the pipelines are not the places where operators that operate deploys usually use. We were aware of that, and that came up in solution validation. But there's a technical issue where the merge request is not the ideal artifact for us to base the approval of the deploy. So this, in fact, could make the feature as it is right now not work. I have a sync scheduled with Shinya and Rayana tomorrow. So we're gonna go over the current scenario, what we have designed and validated, and see what we can salvage from this MVC to proceed to development. Did that make sense?
Cool. Yes. Sorry, I'm just reading the comment now.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys, that would be an interesting meeting to record as well tomorrow. I'd love to see it and watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And Daniel, I think this board meeting, I think this it's also a good point too, if you don't have already with Shinya, this is probably going to have some technical validation that you need to be done, right? Or issues where you're going to talk about the feasibility for that. Maybe you can ask him tomorrow, but there are a couple of examples of this, how they call that? It's not a prototype, but it's a technical conversation from the research insights. So I'll find those for you so you can use as reference also when you're working with Shinya. Just a heads up.
Thanks. Yeah, please link them in the agenda if you can. All right. So yeah, I think with this out of the way, we can talk about the roadmap and breakdowns for the next milestones. Kevin, you added
I'm on mute.
Comments already.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to get into what you had in mind, and then we can
sure.
read.
Yeah, so I can talk about 14.0 because the plan is more or less in place and written down. 14.0, it's mainly about deprecations. And we would love to complete the work for lead time to merge at the group level. So deprecation is a P1 and lead time to merge at group level is P2. Additionally, there are things we brought over from the previous, from 13.12, including things like group level permissions for protected environments, linking feature flags in issues. There's several blockers that blocks group level permission. However, that said, given the amount of deprecation work that are in 14.0, I believe many of the P2 bugs and issues and features we actually won't get to. So I do expect us to not touch the things that are listed in P3 currently.
Yeah.
Maybe get to some of the items in P2 and have a bunch of carry over in 14.0. The deprecation cannot slip because it's our one chance to get any major changes or not backwards compatible changes into our product. So we'll make sure to complete those.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Moving on to 14.1. As you can see, we have, I don't know if this is always the case, but we now have a pile of bugs and MSSO type things. We have a few of the long running issues that haven't been completely completed from milestone to milestone. I really like to, and the fact that we have recently completed two fairly large initiatives. One is the first two metrics in Dora metrics. The second one being pages migration. I think it's a great time to kind of really focus in on some of the bugs, performance issues that have been piling up over time. And this is also out of selfish interest. This will give me more time to understand the longer term release roadmap, to figure out some of the things that we might be interested in making progress on. Recently, I reorganized the work, at least the epic on review apps, which I think is a really interesting and differentiating opportunity for GitLab. And I will continue to do so for the rest of hopefully the rest of the release categories in the next few weeks. So this will give me, by having 14.1 be more focused on bugs and performance issues, this will give me more time to organize and shape things for upcoming milestones. This is a proposal at the moment. I can be convinced otherwise if there's compelling reason, for example, why we should continue working on the remaining Dora metrics, for example. The other item I listed here, if you go back to the issue, Daniel, the note stock, I included a link. I'm interested in making progress on this discoverability issue. So right now we have an experiment running. The growth team provided us some guidance on the data we should look for before we deem the experiment whether successful or not a success. There's more ideas on here. I haven't examined these in detail. I love your help in looking through these if you haven't already. They're directly related to adoption or lack thereof for many of our features. Yeah. And really love to collaborate with you to look through this list and kind of dig into them to see what makes sense to do, what doesn't make sense to do. And if there are additional ideas, that'd be great. And this is also a chance for us to kind of look at what we're missing in terms of metrics. What do we need to measure in order to inform more of these types of things that we can work on?
Yeah, especially for now talking more specifically about the design issues, starting in 14.0, I started to shift focus into environments. And then especially in 14.1, I scheduled mostly environments issues. There's some stuff that relates to our UX OKRs for Q2, but they are also in a way related to environments just by luck, even though the focus is a merge request. These issues were pulled from the improving environments epic that Rayana and Jackie researched and prioritized back in the release orchestration team. Now, in my opinion, the environments page is a really central piece for our group that in terms of usability, it's like has many things that need to be improved. That's why I focused on it, but we can of course accommodate other things and adjust accordingly.
Cool.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So environments, I totally buy the argument that it's really central to everything release related. And I also have a strong opinion that it's not very good in GitLab at the moment. And we have a problem where we mix this concept with other concepts such as deployment, which is frankly confusing to me. I can imagine it's confusing to many others as well. And if we think about environments from a deployment perspective or release perspective, it's right now it's not it's not a concept that has its own construct within GitLab.
And the environment or the deployment itself?
Environment.
Right.
It's kind of just, you can create an environment in one of your CI/CD jobs and it becomes a thing. But as the world moves to a world where enterprises particularly have environments, and the environments can be in both legacy infrastructure, can be in the cloud, can be in cloud native type stuff, grouping, and that's how many release managers think about release. They think about, I need to get my code up to a specific environment. They don't think about, I need to get my code up to Kubernetes or GCP or AWS or my own infrastructure. I think this concept is really central. And if you talk to the configure team, they also have a bunch of ideas around this area. I think this is an area while we can make improvements on the stuff that we have currently, because like there's lots of things to improve. It may be an area following Rayana and what Jackie did, like take a step back. What are we actually talking about here? Maybe Rayana and Jackie already has the answers. I just haven't gotten far enough to.
I'm waiting for you to
following their track.
I'm waiting for you at the end of your sentence so I can tell you what's next there.
Okay, I'm done. Go ahead.
Patiently waiting. My question to you was regarding the increasing discoverability of these features is how does that prioritize against improving environment in general? Because that's all the things you said, right? Environment as deployments as an application and having group environments, let's say enterprise management deployments is part of the research that Jackie and I did last year. And if you look at this link here, improve environments, that's the epic Jackie and I created based on the research. We did problem and solution validation for environments. And we created, maybe I can share my screen to make that a bit more easier to visualize. There you go. You can see improving environments, right? The epic? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Jackie and I worked on the research for environment. I'll link you later to the opportunity canvas. And right before the release management team was dissolved, this was our priority. So we learned that the low-hanging fruits for environments would be to burn down the list of bug fixes, right? So we have a number of issues related to usability, just discoverability, whatever, just inconsistent UI, etc., related to environments that exist today. And then look into developing designs for these issues or design testing proposals. So this mostly talk about that a similar issue or similar epic that Daniel has, that is about improving the environments page. So for example, the environments folder in the index page, it's a mess, right? So there's a bunch of misbehaviors, or users cannot really understand the hierarchy, or which environment, for example, has the latest deployment and who triggered that and why, where's that pointing, etc. Things related to that. So status batch for environments. These all, if not most of them, if not all, they come from research findings, and they align with what we learned from our customers during this investigation. And then the last thing will be the design and breakdown, which is those who definitely need to do validation on high level things. So operation environments, tags related to environment. So that goes back to release orchestration. Anyways, these are more complex things that they don't have proposals per se. But, and as you can see, some are a really old legacy, but those are things that we know we will have to build. And so my question is, kind of trying to summarize it, how that looks to you, Kevin, comparing to what you had there about the just discoverability of the CD feature. Because we already validated those and we already had, well, a plan for them, but because of the change in the structure, these were not prioritized. And in terms of UX, in terms of what can we do next, these, I think this shows a clear path for the work and what needs. Oh, you're muted.
I love that. If it's a problem that's validated and the solution is validated, to me, it becomes a no-brainer. And I also know that in general, that's a much bigger thing. The reason I pulled the kind of discoverability issue forward is because it was number 2 on the list from the yearly priority issue that I was referencing. But if it's like issues that we haven't really dove into and we know environments is super important, the relative priority answer to me seems pretty clear. That we can spend more time on environments. Now the question to me really is like I view 14.1 as like filler issues, while we find our next big thing to really dive into. Is environments more important than continue to make progress on DORA metrics? We're halfway there. That would be an interesting discussion. I don't have a strong opinion at the moment. What I do know is not a lot of people use GitLab incident management in its entirety today. So that means measuring things like MTTR or error rate based on GitLab incidents is going to be, we're going to have a fairly narrow funnel at the top, because not a lot of people are going to benefit from using MTTR. But what I found out today is, which I just posted in Slack, our infrastructure team, one of the things they're working on right now is how to get stats like MTTR. And they are using our instance. So this could be a great dogfooding opportunity, which may sway me, like, and frankly, you will also help our team, because right now as GitLab grows, you know, it's a heavy load for the infra team. So if we can help them, it's greatly beneficial for the company. So given that, I may be swayed to say, hey, if we do MTTR, this solves the problem, and they were going to work on it anyway. That's 2 birds in 1 stone. That may make me want to just go ahead and complete the initial set of DORA metrics first before we jump to environments.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exactly what we learned also from this validation, right? We had a whole, I linked here an epic where I have all the opportunity canvases for release management. Well, release, so the categories that I own until last year. And that's exactly what we learned, that DORA for metrics was really the top priority, but also the low-hanging fruit. So instead of having that dashboard for the enterprise personas, right, with everything about the deployments, let's show them how their applications are comparing to whatever, their competitors or the market. And then the Dora 4 metrics were those the way to show that. Plus, environments need to get better. That's what we learned. And I asked Jackie for a link of that opportunity canvas presentation. I think it's going to be helpful to the both of you, because then you don't have to read all the documentation. You can just watch Jackie walking through that document and explaining why that combination is so important. Because I think in terms of priority, that will be an interesting thing to look into. So I'm just going to find those links now and add them to the agenda.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so I do think, getting rid of our SLO violations is something we should definitely do sooner rather than later. So what we're talking about here most likely starts in 14.2. If you disagree, please let me know here or later. I'm open.
So in terms of design issues, the ones that I scheduled for 14.1 are mostly the bugs. They're on the top of the list, but focused on design and front end. So they are things that I can start working on as developers are still focusing on wrapping up the work on Dora 4, so we can have this gradient between the two focuses.
Okay.
So we can properly finish Dora 4 while work on environments already starts.
Okay, cool. The other thing that I'm thinking a lot about, that's a bigger thing, is group level resource groups. Sorry. So this is really beneficial, and I wouldn't weigh this as being more important than environments, because environments, I think, has a much larger impact. This is important because we already have project level resource groups, but resource groups, in my opinion, is really most useful when we have it at the group level, because it's less likely you need to, constrain yourself within a specific project. It's at the group level where this becomes really, really useful. And I've heard from people talking about this, and the issue I linked under 14.2 also has gotten some interesting comments from customers that make me think that it is actually important. I don't have a specific method of weighing it against the other things we talked about, but this is the other thing that's on my mind. Anyway, but most likely, given that you are actively working on environments, will probably, I would say, group level resource group will probably not be something I ask you to look into before you change gears from environments.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. So, all right. Given this conversation, thank you. This is super informative for me. I will look at all the recordings that Jackie and Rayana has done previously. And I'm actually super excited about environments, period. I think it's my plan is to actually create a category called environments. Then we can go from there. And the next time, is this meeting once per week?
Yes, I scheduled another one starting next Thursday.
Okay, awesome. In the next meeting, I will do. I will teach myself hopefully a little bit more. Everything you're working on currently, all the historical work has been done on this topic, on the topic of environments, and we can have more in-depth discussion on this stuff.
Yeah, I've pasted a link on the agenda of, it was the best recording about environments I watched.
Which one?
Rayana and Jackie, it's this one at the very end.
Okay.
of the list.
Okay.
It gave me the overview I needed to start scheduling these issues in a way that I felt like I understood them. We weren't just like, just going to pick up top to bottom.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's really interesting that you mentioned that you want to create a category for environments, because I was looking at the categories and doing some mapping for myself a while back. And I realized environments as a term, it's not really mentioned anywhere.
No.
Which in my mind only makes environments seem more important because they are nowhere and everywhere at the same time, right? Everything goes through them.
Yeah. And with all these things you say, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. We heard this from so many people. That's what I'm saying. Please watch these recordings, because then you're not going to do any rework, you know, in terms of validation and UX, because these things are documented and there are research insights on, for example, documentation, where we need to improve, what language we need to use, how, for example, icons for deployments, how do people treat the deployments versus environment. We did even some surveys asking people to explain what they think environments mean. Translate environments to us. What do you understand from what you're saying here? So I think a lot of, if you spend some time looking into the existing findings, you'll be able to not just understand environments, but also help shape the direction and shape your next steps, and not the rework. I think we'll all be very happy if we don't have to redo, especially the research part.
Excellent. I am super jazzed about this, because I've been thinking about it from the configure perspective. It's always just like we bump up against this concept of environments. It's like it's kind of broken or non-existent or confusing at GitLab. Cool. Awesome.
Any other action items that we need to take from this call?
Just to make sure I know where you are at, Daniel, for 14.0, your plate, from what I understand, is quite full, and you're not blocked by me or any decisions.
No, not at all. From the perspective of environments and releases, not so full, but I'm still caught up with some onboarding things that I want to wrap up properly this milestone. And there's also the current issue that we're blocked on, so that will spill over a little bit for this milestone. But yeah, for the next one, 14.1, I plan to be fully on board for environments.
Excellent. All right, this is exciting. So, okay. By the way, Thursday I'm off next week. I'll reschedule this call for another day.
Okay, yeah, we can maybe try to pull it to next Wednesday then.
Okay.
We have it.
Yeah. We're also off. We have 2 days off next week in the Netherlands. Wednesday.
Monday and Friday.
Cool.
But yeah, on a note, I want to thank Rayana for all this research work that she has done in the past. It's, for me as a designer, it's a gift to come into a team and have all the research done and everything prioritized. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you for picking up on my work. I'm very excited for you, because this is a very fun problem to solve, and you know, this is going to unlock so much potential, not just of course for our customers, but internally. People are going to be very happy when we make these small improvements. They have a huge impact. So go team. Awesome.
All right. Well, I think if we don't have any other final thoughts, then that's it. We're at time. Thank you for being here, and let's keep in touch until next week.
Okay. Thank you both. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.